Hey guys, welcome to OCD Real Talk. We have Amanda today with us.
Hi.
Um, Amanda, how long have we worked together?
Our first session was November 11th, 2024.
Oh wow, okay, you remember the specific date. I mean, I remember it was end of last year, so I was just
The
going to
date
say
that
a
changed my
year. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Again, I just did a real talk with someone else a couple of days ago, and it just went up on the channel today. And um, I think with her, it's been also like 10, 11 months, something of the same sort. So it's gone by fairly quickly. So
Yeah.
yeah. Amanda, you're from Tennessee, right?
Tennessee.
Okay, all right. How's I think like we'll start from a little bit from the beginning, like in terms of like, do you remember when you were younger when you like noticed if
Oh yeah.
something was a bit off, and how was
Yeah.
it also just in the take us back to Tennessee, like just in the landscape of like your environment and people around you and stuff like how was it in terms of when you also noticed it in the context of where you lived?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I live in more modern Tennessee because my mom also has a lot of issues with OCD and anxiety, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
lot different when she was growing up. Um, she didn't really get any help until I don't think she went to therapy for the first time until she was in her 40s. Anyways,
Like
um,
majority of our parents, by the way,
yeah.
like who, yeah, didn't
Um,
have that.
so I first, my first big memory of having anxiety was when I was in fourth grade. Um, yeah, pretty young. Um, and I think it was overtaking like the state testing, if anyone in America knows the TCAPs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had a teacher that really was stressing us about how important it was that we pass this test. And it just, I don't know, in my little kid mind, I was like, if I don't pass this test, my life is over. And um, I don't particularly remember it manifesting in like super obsessive thoughts. It was more
Hmm.
physical. It was making me physically ill. Like
Yeah.
every day I would come back, I would come home from school, I would like throw up from
Oh wow.
anxiety. And yeah. Um, so that was kind of the earliest thing that I remember. But again, fortunately, because my mom had been through this, my mom has been like my saving grace through all this. She's been so supportive and really helping me get through it. She's my main support person, even especially whenever my OCD became chronic almost 6 years ago now. She was just like really there for me every single day
Right.
because she knew what I was going through and she wanted to give me the support that she didn't have when she was growing up.
Yeah. I think like I mean, if you have parents who like let's say even if your mother didn't have like any, let's say anxiety or OCD stuff herself, I think it's also like if you have a parent who reacts to something in like the right way, or like in a better fashion
Yeah.
and more open and accepting way, I think that really
Hmm.
does set the tone for a lot of things. I
Yeah.
remember like the first time like and when I was what like 20 years old, like I sat my parents down and I just I mean obviously like I had decided to go for therapy essentially, and I sat them down to be like, okay, I basically want to go for therapy, can you please pay kind of thing.
Hmm.
And of course like they were like, yeah, I mean, yeah, whenever you want to go, just let us know kind of thing. And not that I was expecting any kind of different response, but like I think you still do. I was still like, okay, will they have any extra questions or whatnot? But again, they both are doctors. So I think, I mean, even though it's not mental
Yeah.
health per se, but they've dealt with a lot of patients who had like a lot of mental health issues and stresses and whatnot going on in their lives that was affecting their physical health as well. So I think in that sense they were pretty like obviously open, and they were like, yeah, that's fine. So it really helped set the tone for that kind of like, in some ways, openness, I guess.
Yeah.
um
And like like I said, my mom didn't go to therapy or anything until later in life. I think I was in like middle school when she finally went.
Hmm.
And so I never went to any kind of therapy actually until it became chronic 6 years ago. Up until that point, it had all just been like medication
Hmm.
because that's just kind of how we knew how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Whenever I started getting sick, my mom took me to the doctor, and so they prescribed me SSRIs and stuff.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Um, and whenever she went to therapy and had a good response to it, that was kind of whenever it opened the door for me. Of
Yeah.
course, it was like CBT and everything, so
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really what I needed, but
Yeah.
it put me on the track to finding you guys. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, and
yeah.
I think, I mean, maybe that's also why in the year that we worked together, I feel like one of the things that I've also enjoyed about working with you is also that, and I've said this to you before as well, is like whenever we've talked about, let's say, again, making changes in lives and like, whether it's like many little exposures or giving up compulsive behaviors or thinking about your perspectives in life in general as well, I feel like whenever I've spoken to you, I've always found out that you've taken initiative on your own as well, even outside of some of the things that you and I have discussed together, which I really
Mhm.
enjoy and I find, quite refreshing as well. Because usually OCD sufferers will be like, okay, I'm not going to go outside of the things that I've only discussed in my one-to-ones. And because that comes also from a little bit of that place of like not wanting to take any extra risk. So I think
Mhm.
like and maybe that speaks to the fact that you've maybe been to therapy before as well. Maybe, I don't know, that you're already open to having, taking that initiative and having, in fact, the mindset that, okay, like, let me try and I have a situation that's just come up that maybe I haven't discussed with mom in one-to-ones, but let me try a different way of dealing with it. So,
Mhm.
which I think is really great for any OCD sufferer to do.
Yeah, I I definitely think it is maybe because of my experience with therapy in the past, but also I kind of wonder if part of it is like the fear aspect where because that was always a big thing for me where I just didn't want my anxiety or anything to control my life.
Yeah.
And so I just take it very seriously,
Yeah.
I guess. And so, and me and you now, we only talk once a month.
Mm.
So there's a lot of time in between that stuff comes up and whatnot. And so I just
Yeah. I
use my
mean,
best.
speaking of like fear not trying to control you, I think like we can speak about this. You wearing glasses right now. Um,
Oh,
can
yeah.
you can you please explain to people how wearing glasses was like
Oh my
a
God.
huge problem? Like because now that we started this call, it was such a normal like, oh hey, like okay, we're just here talking, but like this is a huge
Yeah.
deal.
It's honestly, that just goes to show how insanely I've changed over the last year.
Hmm.
Because, so when we first started meeting, I never wore my glasses, even though I need them. Like, I have not great vision. Now, whenever I don't wear, I can't function without them. Um, and I didn't wear them for years. I originally got prescribed glasses when I was in like fifth grade,
Oh
and I
wow,
didn't
okay, that
wear
early
them
on.
until this past year. Um, it was kind of like I didn't like how I looked with them, especially because when I first got prescribed them, I also had braces. And so I was just like,
That's a stereotypical image that you see in movies as well. If you want to show the high school kid who is kind of like in their puberty years as well, it's like
mhm,
glasses and braces, and then suddenly the braces come off and the glasses come off, the
yeah.
hair comes out, and it's just like, oh my God, like what a beauty. But yeah.
So initially it was kind of like a self-conscious thing, like um
Hmm.
just not liking how I looked and stuff with them. But later on, it actually was so when my OCD and everything became chronic about 6 years ago, one of my biggest issues for like 3 years straight was really intense DPDR. And like the visual sensation of stuff not looking real, blah, blah, blah. And then a few years into that, when I tried to finally start wearing glasses because my vision was getting worse, I don't know if anyone has experienced this, but when you go from really needing glasses to finally wearing them, stuff looks so sharp, it almost doesn't look real. And so it reminded me of that DPDR sensation that I experienced for so long. And that was probably the most like, I don't know if that's the right word, like traumatic part of my whole journey was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
DPDR.
yeah.
Um, and so it reminded me of that. And so I just was never willing to do that to like force myself to wear them. I would wear them for a little bit if I really needed them, like in class or something, but then I would take them off. And it's crazy because actually the panic attack that spiraled me in to going down the rabbit hole and finding you guys in July of last year was from my glasses.
Oh, I
I,
didn't know this.
yeah, I went to see a movie I was really excited about. I don't even remember what movie it was. Oh, it was Deadpool and the Wolverine.
Okay,
And I was
yeah.
really excited about it. And I went with some friends and I was like, I want to be able to like see the movie. And so I wore my glasses. And I don't know, just by the end of it, I just spiraled into a full blown panic attack about it.
Yeah.
Look at me now. I think you had me start wearing these daily very early on, like session 2 or something.
Yeah, yeah. I think like this was one of the first few major things that came up, and I remember you being
Mm.
like, what? No. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I
No, it
think
was,
you probably started wearing them by end of last year, I think, maybe.
oh, yeah. I was wearing them daily by, yeah, probably December or something.
And like, so how were like the first maybe few weeks of wearing them?
So I will say,
Sorry, like let me reframe that question. Like I think
yeah,
like because I want to know like how long did it take you to get comfortable with them to the point where you stopped even noticing that, oh, I'm wearing them.
probably, so my eyes and my brain got used to them after probably a week,
Mm-hmm.
but for the anxiety like of me putting them on and taking them off, because it was also the taking off aspect that freaked me out. Like once my eyes got used to them and then I would take them off, you feel even more blind after your eyes have
Right.
gotten used to being able to see well. And
And
that freaked
also
me.
like tell me a bit more, like explain that fear a little bit more. Like with along with the DPDR and like feeling like things are not real, like explain exactly why that made you anxious as well.
It was honestly probably like a fear thing.
Hmm.
Just like the change in the sensation of how I see and stuff. Just afraid that for whatever reason it would freak me out and spiral me. I mean, the fear of fear is like a very running theme for me. Like
Hmm.
I'm afraid of all kinds of things that will trigger a panic attack because for me, I know panic attacks happen a lot for some people, but they really only happen for me when it gets really bad. And those
Hmm.
are like the catalyst for me going into a really bad like setback or whatever. And so I think it was more of just a fear thing with just the change in how I was seeing stuff, I
And was
guess.
it like the hyper awareness of like your perception of reality?
Yeah, probably. By the time last year when I started wearing these, I actually no, that's not true. I was going to say I wasn't having a big issue with the DPDR, but because I was in the middle of a setback or whatever,
Hmm.
I was having issues with the association stuff again. So yeah, I guess it kind of played into like the existential, the DPDR about how it changed my vision and the way I saw stuff.
Hmm. Okay. And then how
There's a lot
many
of
how
layers to it.
yeah, there are many layers to it. And then how when like how much time did it take you to stop even noticing the taking them off and putting them on?
Probably like a month
Okay.
because every day of me putting them on and taking them off and realizing that like the world didn't stop spinning,
Yeah,
um
yeah.
I just got desensitized to it and now it's like
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think like your even your acceptance of that, I think fairly in some ways. And this is like different for many different things. Like obviously there's other parts of your recovery journey that we're still working on, but I feel like there are some things where your acceptance did roll out relatively in comparison a bit more at a faster pace. And then other in other areas your like, acceptance is still a little bit like clogged up and still
Yeah.
obviously on its path, but yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, I think because when you initially started wearing glasses and it just became the norm, I think we never really even touched on it like extensively
No, I don't
again.
think we've talked about it since.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it in like months, I think. So it's good to
Mm.
have that
I'm kind of
check-in
surprised you
episode.
even remember that since it was like almost a year ago.
No, I remember most things. By the way, people are often surprised by my memory too, because like even like one other small thing that I remember from I think just right after our I think first phone call or something,
Mm.
you also like messaged to ask me like, hey, like how many times should I be disputing? What did you mean about should I dispute everything in one day or multiple times a week?
I asked you because this was actually before
Yeah,
I did on paper disputing. It was when I
yeah,
was just going through the exercise in the book.
yeah,
And I'd asked you, I was like, do I need to do every exercise every day?
yeah.
Like all 18 or however many exercises. And you, I remember the way you responded to me was almost like an exposure in and of itself, was you just being like, think about what you're asking. And then I was like, oh no, Moment hates me and thinks I'm so annoying. But yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, because it really does go to show that a lot of the times with I think OCD sufferers, they would know the answer, or they would actually, if they really did think about it a second time, they would know what the answer to the question is. But of course, like with
Mm.
we become so unsure of ourselves as people that we
Yeah.
can't trust any sort of our judgment kind of thing. So obviously
Hmm.
that sometimes plays a part in that. So I think like what I also then just want to ask you is that like what are some of the things over the last year that you have gained which really make you feel like, oh wait, like this journey has been really worth it so far.
Oh my God. Like just the freedom to be able to do what I want to do. Like, I mean, in April of this year, I went to Las Vegas for the first time ever, and which I did still travel throughout my
Hmm.
last 6 years and stuff like that. But there would still be a lot of anxiety about being far away from my family. Like, what if something goes wrong?
Hmm.
Getting on an airplane, stuff like that. And but I remember while I was there, like probably 2 or 3 days into the trip, I realized how a lot of that anxiety wasn't there for some reason, or like was just a lot lower. I wasn't thinking about it constantly.
Hmm.
There still was some anxiety, like especially on the plane ride back. Um, but just I think also just the freedom of knowing that I don't have to listen to my anxiety or my OCD. Like knowing just because I'm scared about something doesn't mean that I have to not do it.
Yeah.
And I 9 times out of 10, once I do it, like halfway into doing it or after, I'm so glad I did. And the anxiety usually diminishes, which I know that's not the same for a lot of people. I know exposures are different for everyone.
Yeah.
But for me personally, um, like literally last week, I haven't even told you this yet, Moment, because we haven't
Hmm.
talked. I had to get my first ever filling in one of my teeth. And I've
Oh.
never like had to get a numbing shot or anything in my mouth or jaw.
Oh.
Medical stuff has always been a huge trigger for me, like
Yeah.
with the anesthesia thing a few months ago. And I was really nervous going into it. And a year ago, I would have been heavily considering even canceling my appointment. But the thought never even crossed my mind to cancel the appointment, which I didn't realize until after.
Hmm.
I was nervous, but I was just like, I'm going to do it. And then I got there, and 10 minutes into it, my anxiety was gone because I realized it was going to be fine. Um, so just I don't know, knowing I can do what I want and don't have to listen to my OCD, I guess.
Yeah, because then there's not this constant nagging voice, that's,
Yeah.
essentially the driving force behind each and every single action that you're making, essentially.
Hmm.
Like that really is a weight off your shoulders, and I feel like, just, I mean, like you've mentioned on the trip itself as well, I think it's oftentimes not a realization that you have because you're tracking it. It's like, oh wait, like it's kind of like a, almost
Yeah,
like
it's like
like
a
a surprise. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I haven't thought about that in a while. That's how it was the other day with the dentist.
Mm.
It was a few hours later and my mom had called me and like asked me how it went. I was talking to her and I was like, normally I would have been like trying like thinking about canceling the appointment and everything because I was so scared like the avoidance and everything like that. But I didn't even think about it.
Mm.
Like and that really shows about how I'm working on not being afraid of the anxiety, the fear of fear. Um I feel like I've gotten a lot better about that and not avoiding situations that make me anxious.
Yeah. And like,
But
what has, like, aside from this, like, do you feel like there's been something that has really surprised you about your own self through this entire process?
um I would say just that I've stuck with it, I guess,
Okay.
because I never, that's why like the principles about the acceptance and everything and breaking down the fear is so important because I never would have imagined that I would be able to directly go against my anxiety unless I was forced to. Um, I mean, like my biggest feat of the year since all this started was me going under anesthesia willingly. Um, especially for something that was non-emergent because over the last few years I had made like the decision that I would only go under anesthesia if it was like I was gonna die if I didn't kind of thing. And then so probably the biggest thing that shocked me was just the fact that like I'm doing it, I
Yeah.
guess. Like I just
No, and I think that's why, like, fair is not only the most central thing, I feel like, to, like, anyone's OCD journey, because obviously it's at the heart of everything, but it comes from so many different angles, and it's such a complex thing that it's not just a, hey, look, I mean, I say to everyone as well that fair is not like, okay, let me open my vault and take out all the template kind of like answers I have about fair, and there you go. Like, it's so contextual to every person in some ways. Like, even like
mhm,
with you, based off of what your specific fears have been since the beginning, I feel like there were so many tiny things that informed your fear, whether it was
mhm,
like medical procedures, whether it was the glasses, whether it was like, existential stuff or whatever it is. It's all those are coming from that angle of, um, what if I'm not myself? What if I get stuck in this sensation? What if I lose control as a result of this and this procedure? Like, what if I'm not able to, get out of the discomfort when it comes from this? And that plays up in, like, it's a very kind of multi-dimensional kind of thing. And I feel like, again, with
mhm.
you having made not just changes with your main themes that you came in with, but also, again, just your day-to-day life as well, tiny little things that you probably don't even remember at this point. I feel like, the changes that
Yeah,
you made in this year.
I hadn't even thought about it in forever, but about the whole thing of like me not reaching my full potential, not being myself or anything like that. I hadn't even thought about that in forever.
Yeah.
But there was years after, probably for the first like 3 or 4 years after my OCD became more chronic, that I would all the time just be trying to get back to the old me, to the pre OCD me.
That's a big one. That's a big one for so many
Mhm.
people.
I mean, that was like the end goal was to get back to that point. And I don't think I fully let that go until I watched one of y'all's videos where you had or maybe you told me, I don't even remember, but where
Hmm.
you all had said that, like, you're not going to be that same person because there's been so many other things that have happened. You've gotten older, you started your career. Like, you don't want to be that. That's what you said. You
Yes.
don't want to be that person anymore because that's the person that got you in this position.
Yeah.
And that's what made me
Right.
let it
Well
go.
said. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it's obviously it's one of the biggest, I would say. I just had a phone call literally about that same fear with someone earlier, not earlier this week, just a few days ago. Um exactly that thing that, oh, I just want to go back to who I was pre-OCD. And we don't
Mm.
realize how much, if you go back to your old self, you will come back to the same point, essentially,
Yeah.
where you are right now. What was like in this 1 year, which part do you feel like was the most like challenging or confusing for you to work on?
Which, like, which theme or whatever?
Yeah, I mean either theme or belief, or even for that matter behavior, whatever comes to your mind.
Hmm. Definitely the most difficult and confusing, like, behavior slash compulsion to give up is definitely the mental compulsions. I know you all
Mm.
talk about all the time about how difficult that is
Yeah.
though. And like the mental checking, the rumination, the self reassurance, that's very tricky. um, Theme wise, honestly, it's so crazy because whenever I first scheduled my first meeting with you, I thought my only theme was existential because that was what I was going through and what I had
Yeah.
been going through for years. Come to find out, I have like a whole laundry list of other issues. Um,
Because when you begin scratching the surface, you realize, oh, like this existential OCD is actually also like made by so
mhm.
many other kind of things intersecting at the same time.
Yeah, I would say honestly, it might be like the existential and the death anxiety,
Mm.
just because, well, especially the death, because like, there's no escaping it. And also, death and like the existence of the universe, everything like that is so
Mm.
elusive. And, like no one knows the answer. And
Mm.
that always really bothered me, which I guess that's true with any kind of theme, like relationship OCD. Like, you can't know for sure if they truly love you or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's another person, but you can ask for reassurance. But you can't ask for reassurance with like existential or death OCD
Yeah.
because literally no one knows.
Yes.
You can't like just call up God or something and,
Yeah, yeah.
be like, I need some reassurance that all
Yeah.
this is real. So,
Even, and I think like even people who are, let's say, religious or who believe in an afterlife, like I think like I come from a religious background where they do explain some of the stages of what you go through after death in a way. Like once you're buried and everything, like what will happen when you're in the grave, and then what will happen a little after, blah blah blah, all of that. And I think even in any kind of religion where like the post-death era of your soul is explained, I feel like even then there it feels so uncertain because it's nothing that you can like when you visualize it, it feels very almost like science fiction essentially and supernatural, quite literally actually.
yeah.
And it's not someone like you can't have, just imagine though, like if there was a person who went through that and came back and told us about it, it would change everything for so many
Hmm.
people. Like it would
Yeah.
give so much certainty about, oh, this is what happens in that kind of world and whatnot. But no, so even with that knowledge, it still feels uncertain and it still feels like a daunting thing to go through because it's such a big unknown of
Yeah.
what comes after. But what would you say right now, like in terms of your acceptance of that uncertainty and everything, where are you with that?
I mean, I haven't thought about the existential OCD in a while as far as, like, is everything a simulation, that kind of thing. Um, and I've made a lot of progress with the death too. Sometimes it still pops up, just it's still kind of unsettling, the finality of it all, I guess.
Mm.
Um, but it doesn't really control my life like it used to. Like I don't avoid things that could potentially,
Yeah,
cause
yeah.
death at all and stuff like that. Like I know I keep talking about it, but like with the anesthesia thing,
No, no,
that
because it
was
was a huge thing. Yeah, yeah, it's a huge
a
thing.
huge exposure for the death thing because I'm sure a lot of people think about, like, what if I don't wake up and everything like that? I mean, that
Yeah.
was huge that I was taking that big of a risk, especially for something not even super important, I was just
Mm.
having an upper endoscopy.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was huge. That
Was going to the dentist like the same thing with the anesthesia in your mouth? Was it like the same, almost like fear that the anesthesia would make you not wake up or something?
no, because I was awake. Um, Honestly, I don't know what it really was. I think it was just because like I've never had a numbing shot like that before. And so it was probably kind of like with the glasses thing, like the sensation of like not having the feeling. What if the feeling doesn't come back? All
Right.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, I mean, the dentist used to be like a huge scare for me, to the point I remember this one time when I was very young. Um, I was, I went to the dentist and I had to have an extraction done, and I was so afraid of it. But here's the funny bit. Before that extraction, I used to be okay going to the dentist. I think it was once my brother said something, and he said, I don't even remember what it was exactly, but I think he said something extremely random, like, oh, like if they take out the tooth and it goes inside you, it'll grow into something. Like, I don't know, like, I think he said some like stupid, like, shit. And,
Yeah.
but somehow that just like stuck with me, and I became so afraid of going to the dentist. And I remember they were in the middle of them extracting my tooth. I got so kind of like scared that I kind of moved my head, and it cut. I got it cut over here or something. Thankfully, nothing scarred, but like,
Mm.
um, but yeah, I mean, I avoided the dentist for many, many years. Hence, like, I needed braces quite desperately. I had Bugs Bunny teeth, to be honest. Um, and I only started my like dental procedure with getting my teeth aligned maybe I think when I was 24, maybe. My teeth are still not perfectly aligned. I still wear Invisalign, but I'm getting through the steps. But that's because I avoided braces and stuff like that for a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um.
I remembered another aspect of because you'd asked about the dentist. Um, it was also because I knew there was a chance that I don't know, maybe they would need to give me some laughing gas or whatever.
Oh.
That is a big one, which I ended up not. So like that exposure didn't even happen. But that is another thing that really freaks me out. I think because of the whole DPDR thing. I don't like any kind of mind altering. Like I don't drink or anything. Um, so I've often thought about if I ever had to be prescribed like opiates after if I had to have a procedure,
Yeah,
broke my leg, um,
yeah.
how that would go because that really freaks me out. So like that's another thing I still got to work on.
Let's
But
see. Maybe we'll be like, hey, let's go on some procedure that'll make you have
maybe
fun.
next time I go to the dentist, I'll be like, give me some laughing
Yeah,
gas.
exactly. Demand it from them. No, that's good. And I think like because I know you have to head out as well. So I mean, with let's say someone is like starting out their recovery journey right now, like what would be some key things that you would tell them if you had to give any kind of advice on that?
Give it a fair chance because I know in the beginning, because what you all teach is so different from the gold standard of OCD treatment, just like
Yeah.
exposures, exposures, exposures. Um, in the beginning, as with OCD, I had a lot of doubts.
Yeah.
I was like really doubting that this was the answer. And especially because when you first read it, like the Albert Ellis books and stuff like that, it seems kind of extreme. I don't know if that's the
His
right word.
tone is very like in your face, and his
Yeah,
tone feels
it's
like
very,
it's a verbal slap, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that really freaked me out a lot in the beginning, but give it a fair chance because the initial groundwork is so, I mean, it's like that and then exposures and stuff like that is like what keeps the balance. Because with my whole glasses thing, obviously I had tried wearing them off and on throughout the years, but it would always freak me out and I would take them off. The only way I was able to do this exposure and wear them consistently was because I had learned those like base principles from you all that, you know, if I put them on and I feel anxious, I'm not going to die. It's not the end of everything. It'll be okay. And just learning, I don't know, about how the OCD mind works, why it's important. That was a long-winded answer, but basically just give it
No,
a fair
no, that's
chance.
fine.
You
I
know,
mean, yeah,
don't
yeah,
just because you don't feel better after 2 weeks, don't give up because it takes time, you know?
yeah,
And I mean, it's been a year and I'm not even, I still have issues, like,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. No, for
so,
sure. I think like I mean, that's one of the things that I say to people as well. I'm like, sometimes people are like, oh, I tried doing this, it didn't work for me, it didn't make me feel better, so I stopped then doing it. And I say that, but I want you to give it a proper shot. And a proper shot to something can sometimes mean like even with a small change in your behavior, like sometimes depending on what behavior it is or how important it is, like sometimes you have to give it like a good 2, 3 months, sometimes of consistently
mhm.
doing it to actually
Oh, yeah.
see the
I
benefit.
didn't really, I noticed like the slight big shift in my thinking, probably like 3, 4 months in. And then I really started to notice an improvement in like day to day life at least 6 months in plus. So like it takes some time. But and I
Yeah.
think in the beginning I had even told you that, hold on, my iPad's about to die.
Oh,
To
it's
change,
okay.
switch brown. So unprofessional of me.
Wow. Guys, this is a real Amanda.
Okay, just always a crap show.
We're
Um,
ending anyway, but yeah, that's okay.
yeah. I think what was I even talking about?
You were we were talking about something about you experiencing like a big change 6 months plus in, and then you were going on to something else.
Oh yeah. Something really important that you said to me in the beginning, because I think I had expressed this fear to you, was that, the time is going to keep flowing anyway. So you might as well try something new and give it a chance and see if it helps because, time's going
Yeah.
to keep going anyway and you'll keep suffering anyway. So might as well try something different, and maybe you'll stop suffering
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah. Well, I said some very helpful things. I'm realizing.
You're so wise, Moment.
I know, but also like I mean, some of the things that you're saying, I mean, obviously they do sound like me, and I've said those things, but like you also never know what you say that sticks with someone, and then later on, many
Hmm.
months down the line, they're like, oh, by the way, that thing that you said really helped me, and that's the thing that kind of helped me not like worry about XYZ thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't even realize. So it's
Yeah.
always interesting to have that kind of reflection on that. Um, okay, well, Amanda, thank you for joining for this very quick chat. Obviously, there's uh, we could like go on and like peel back more and more layers of this because there's so much to
Oh
obviously
yeah.
discuss with OCD with everyone's story. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you soon. Okay,
Bye.
bye.